Okay, let's see if we can do this without any technical difficulties now. Happy New Year's Eve from Virginia. Doing these all over the country. I want to talk about the way, the wording of the Ohio Department of Correction. Yes, I'm talking about I'm doing another video on ODRC. Seems to be fastly becoming my favorite topic to do videos on, mainly because there's so much that needs light shed on it. And I have found that the more you shed light on cockroaches, the more they scatter. I am not calling correctional officers cockroaches. I'm calling the problems that they face the cockroaches. Get to that in a minute. The main cockroach, by the way, would be Annette Chambers Smith. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request a couple of days ago with Toledo CI. Actually filed it on the 29th, so 2 days ago. And this is what I asked. And again, nothing against the person that answered me. He's been very professional, very polite, and I'm 100% positive he's following, if not the custom of the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. He's for sure following the policies and exactly what they want him to give, especially when they know that I'm actively suing them. And I'm sure he's aware of that too. Email I sent was, "Hey Burkhart, I hope you had a Merry Christmas if you celebrate. I am curious if you are able to give me the number of staff assaults that have occurred during the year 2024. If you are able to give me the names, that would be great, but if not, numbers would be fine. Thank you, and I hope you have a Happy New Year." This is his response, and this is a politician's answer if I ever heard one. "Good morning. The only tracking we do is through operational compliance, significant incident summary reports." So that's a mouthful. "As it relates to staff assaults, these are only documented if the staff member went for serious outside treatment. So to answer your question, in 2024, we only had 2 staff assaults that met criteria for SIS reporting. Thank you." That tells me a lot. There was 2 assaults the day I got assaulted that I know of. Me and one other guy. That's just one day. I must feel remiss to go ahead and tell y'all that tomorrow I do plan on having a Zoom call. Unfortunately, I will not be in Toledo, but I plan to have a Zoom call with WTOL. What's a guy's name? I suck at names. Those of y'all that know me know this. Sorry, I'm looking for Mike Sandlin. That's his name. I've got to talk to him tomorrow, and this is part of what I'm going to bring up. Aside from the video that I'm doing and the topic of this, which is how the department downplays the problems that they have. One of the things they downplay is staffing issues. Yes, they admit that they need people. But they're in a lot more trouble than they're going to publicly let on. And I'm going to qualify my remarks as this, okay? When I started June 10th, 2024, there were 5 people in my class. Me and at least one other person are no longer there. These are COs. There was one other guy that started. I think he was sports staff. He worked elsewhere in the prison. He wasn't a CO, although I will say that I think that dude would make one hell of a CO, just my opinion. But 5 COs. To my knowledge, 2 of us are gone. I know at least 2 of us are still there. I'm not sure about the 3rd, if she's still there or not. I feel she probably is. That being said, when they're saying that, oh, well, all posts, when the director gets on here and says all posts are covered, when they kept asking her, well, how short-staffed are you? Well, all of our correctional officer posts were covered. All of the posts were covered. All of the posts were covered. They had to push her to get some numbers out. At least my interpretation of it was. Let me give y'all some numbers. When half the shift is doing overtime, you're not fully staffed. You're not even close. When half the shift has to stay over an additional 8 to 8.5 hours, working at least 16 and a half, possibly 17-hour shifts, there's a problem. Now, they try to limit, they don't like to call you back to back to back, but that doesn't mean they can't. And the union doesn't disallow it, which again, I think OCSEA is a joke, but just my opinion. Of course, I think most unions are jokes, so, blame it on my Mississippi roots of watching English Shipyard as a child. Seemed like they were on strike every other week. So, that was really, I guess that put a sour taste in my mouth on unions. Not that I ever had anything to do with English Shipyard in Pascagoula, but it does still burn in my mind the stuff that they were doing. Anyway, I digress. So, they want you to work, and they mandate you to work overtime. A lot of the reason that Toledo CI had to work a lot of overtime was as a result of an inmate manipulation tool called Constant Watch or Suicide Watch. If an inmate gets pissed off at you, all he's got to do is say, I'm suicidal. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to harm myself in some way. I'm going to cut myself. I'm going to bash my head up against the door. Or take something and just scratch his wrist a little bit, make a little blood come out. Now, the inmate's not suicidal, more than likely. I'm not saying that he's not completely suicidal, but he's not as suicidal as he's letting on. He's mad. And he knows that this is going to cause strain on officers when you have to have one-on-one constant watches or one-on-two constant watches where you got a CO that cannot do a damn thing but sit right there cell front watching this inmate because he said he's suicidal or because he cut himself a little bit. And I guarantee you that you, the watcher, has probably cut yourself worse shaving than this inmate has when he just scratches his wrist. Now the officers, now we have a lot of officers that are having to stay over an additional 8-hour shift because this inmate's being a dumbass. Every other facility that I've seen and worked at, when you say that you're suicidal, what they do is they put you in a cell. You've got a toilet, you've got a shroud. We called it a turtle suit because it was green. It's orange in Toledo for some reason, but it was green down in Florida. And and what you do is you go by about every 15 minutes, at least every 15 minutes, and you just walk around, look at them. Okay, you're breathing, you're alive. Let me go ahead and write this stuff down and keep walking. ACA says this is acceptable. ACA is American Correctional Association. You know, the standard that everybody wants to be ACA accredited. They say the 15-minute watches are acceptable. These constant watches because an inmate's mad and I'm suicidal, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going on watch. These inmates that do that are attention seekers. Some of them do it so that they can masturbate to the officer. They prefer a female officer, but they'll masturbate to a male officer. They really don't care. Especially in Ohio, where they know that nothing will happen to them for this. In Florida, you gun an officer, you're probably catching a sex charge if that officer wants to push it that far. And the officer has the option to push it to catch you an outside charge, and you will be a registered sex offender. For jacking your pecker at an officer. Male or female, it does not matter. In Ohio, that doesn't happen. Of course, they don't prosecute staff assaults either. They don't even like to acknowledge staff assaults, as we've seen in this email. So, now we have an officer that just worked a 16 to 17 hour shift, at least 16 and a half, possibly 17 by the time he gets relieved, and he drives home. Some people drive an hour or more to work. I know people in Toledo that drove from as far as Defiance, Ohio, to go to work. When I started, I was driving from Fremont. People are driving from Port Clinton. Some people are coming up from up Michigan to come to work. Okay, so some people will say, well, that's their problem, they can move closer. What if they have other reasons why they can't move closer? Personal preference. I mean, I got me an apartment. I was 15 minutes away, so it really didn't bother me all that much. I don't mind working 16s. I like overtime. But eventually what's going to happen is you're going to be tired. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're human and you get tired, you're going to be irritable. You're not going to be thinking as clearly as you would if you weren't exhausted. And what that leads to is an increase in the uses of force, because you're not going to use your de-escalation techniques. You're just going to go hands-on. You're going to go for your spray, or you're going to go for your hands, or you're going to go pull your PR-24, or whatever. It's going to happen. And a use of force that, if you weren't so damn tired, would have been avoided, is going to occur. And then when it's played back and it's a bad use of force, the officer's going to get in trouble. Now, I understand COs are supposed to be professional. I get that. But COs are human. In Florida, in training, we said real people with real problems. So when you have that use of force that would have otherwise been avoided, and it's a spontaneous use of force that, inmates yelling, so you start yelling, then it gets louder, then it just escalates up to physical violence, and then it escalates further to where you use excessive force, and it does happen. I've seen it many times. Now what good are you? Now we got another officer to cover your shift because you're suspended pending investigation, when it could have been avoided in the first damn place if the state would be honest about its vacancies, and the state would do what they can to protect staff. And I'd still be there if they'd back staff up. I would still be in uniform to this day. I'd be cussing the snow, but I'd still be there. Where does this end? And then they give a politician's answer to the staffing issues. And then they get a politician's answer to staff assaults. Something's got to change. If not, somebody's going to get hurt. And somebody already has. This officer was working overtime when he was killed. You answer the root question of why he was working overtime, why he had to work overtime to cover this post, why the union is asking for more people, and why the state of Ohio has no control over their institutions. It's going to hell in a handbasket. And this is going to lead to more people getting hurt. But of course they don't have to report that, because unless you go for outside medical, you didn't get assaulted. So they keep those numbers down, those statistics down. They don't report them because you just got popped in the beak, or you got scratched on the arm. Well, an assault is assault. Unlawful touching is assault. I have literally seen a guy, and this is in Mississippi, get arrested because he hit an officer as hard as I just hit myself. They charged him with simple assault on a police officer. So, I'm not saying that there aren't other mitigating factors, but somebody getting shit thrown on them, somebody getting punched in the face, somebody getting slapped, somebody in a fight with a CO, hits a CO, that's an assault. And if you don't think it's an assault, put the uniform on and let it happen to you. I hope the news media does the right thing. But I'm going to keep making these videos and let y'all know what I find out. Y'all have a good one. Be safe. Happy New Year.